Fractional Frequency, our take on talent, people trends, and the reality of building up businesses in an economy that keeps rewriting the rules. I'm Amy Crook, founder of Stratavis.
And I'm Erin Totis, Managing Director of Talent Delivery, which basically means I live in the universe of finding the right people to make an impact for our clients fast.
Around here, we talk about the real side of HR and talent, what works, what absolutely doesn't, and how to build teams that can carry a business, not drag it down.
We'll break down trends, share the behind the scenes of scaling a consultancy from zero, and probably overshare a little because that's where the good lessons live.
So whether you're building, hiring, leading, or just trying to keep your company profitable, you're in the right place.
This is Fractional Frequency. Let's get to it. So in our last episode, we talked about performance. 'Tis the season. And as always, that bled into a broader conversation about career development, decision-making, and the moments when leaders get stuck in their own heads. And that's why the conversation today with Mike Reading is such a natural follow-up. Amy has been using Mike's product as a quick access, critical thinking partner, something that helps leaders sort of pressure test ideas, challenge their own assumptions, and move faster without spinning. And so this episode is really about A, how leaders actually think through hard problems, B, why having a thinking partner matters, and C, what Mike is building to support that in a really modern, fresh, scalable way. And so today is not a sales pitch, but it's a real conversation about how work, performance, and leadership decisions actually get made. So let's get to it. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thank you very much.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
Good, good. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
We're so excited you're here. Mike, can you tell us a little bit, to kick us off, tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, so I mean, just a LinkedIn bio, I guess. I've done a little bit of everything in my career. Work with founders mainly now. Also have this AI product we'll get into about scaling executive thinking within organizations. But prior to that, worked within Walmart within organizational and leadership development. Helped launch a startup out of New York in the advertising technology space before that. Did even nonprofit social impact work before then, and also am a adjunct professor in an MBA program for business and city systems. I got an undergrad in humanities and then got a master's in humanities and still didn't get things figured out. So I got an MBA and then a doctorate in transformational leadership, emphasis in cultural transformation. So that's a little bit about where I'm coming from. I like to think about thinking, and I want to do that for a living.
Nice, nice.
Phenomenal. I'm glad I don't have to follow that with any kind of an introduction of myself. We've already done that.
I never know what to say about me. Like, I don't know.
Oh, that's enough. That's
I
enough.
lost you in debt. How about that?
So, Mike, just an incredible, diverse set of experiences. Tell us a little bit about what you've been building.
Yeah, so it's kind of the integration of like the degrees aren't just because I wanted some letters behind a name. It was really just a nagging problem that bothered me since college, about how do we think about our thinking in real time in order to upgrade its quality, bring it back to life again for each new time and unique set of circumstances in each place. And so it's been that journey turned into, okay, how do we then make this where I'm not the bottleneck person that does it through traditional teaching or delivery methods? How do we scale it with what AI makes possible? And with that, it's been able to look at how does you have a real-time thinking partner that doesn't do the work for you or tell you what to do, but helps develop the quality of your perception and of your thought and the quality of your decision-making initiative in real time with real work as you go. So it's not disruptive. It's not something else you do on the side. It's woven into your everyday rhythms of work that you already do.
And how were you inspired to develop this? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, okay, I'll nerd out for a minute. So the framework behind it is just a type of design thinking. Design thinking, just at its core, is just a discipline of like being intentional about shaping all the stuff that goes into action before you just jump to execution. So you got a lot of design thinking that emphasizes process and continuous improvement, like lean. You got human centered that looks at, let's make sure the decisions that we make with the input we have works for the user, works for the customer. What regenerative design thinking is a little bit different. Instead of looking at the performance of the parts or the people that are in the process, it looks like how do we develop and activate the potential of the whole. And the way to think about it is when we think of regeneration, it's really common in agriculture. People realize and companies said, man, it's really hard to get our ROI and our financial performance up the more we work against the living system of the plant and the environment that it's planted in. All the pesticides we throw at it, all the forced growth methods, it really just either ruins the plant itself or it ruins the soil and life around it. Instead of trying to extract from the potential of these living things to maximize our quick return, what if we actually worked with the potential and developed the potential of the plant, of the place the plant belongs to, in order to help get our returns both now and in the long term? So that's what regeneration is. And about 1990s, it's been a movement of like, okay, well, people, we're living systems too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the work that we do together creates another living system. So why can't we take that same idea of working with the potential inside of us and our systems and develop that in order to achieve results instead of this unit of production, extracting, driven, optimizing that really erodes our ability to make clear decisions, activate our own self-authorship, our own sense of clarity and perception that is necessary to do high quality work.
I think that's so key. And I think the more that, technology advances and problems and strategies to solve them get over-engineered, the more we're realizing that, we need to just cut things back and make things simple. And it just makes me think about like the real problem that we are facing when we're looking at design thinking or critical thinking, is that number one, when you get stuck, it's really hard to unstick yourself when you're alone. And that thinking alone component is prevalent across multiple levels now because we've got more people than ever working remotely and independently, and more people unwilling to kind of uh take a risk on making themselves look vulnerable. And so then you find people making decisions in a vacuum or just um typing it into a bog standard LLM and hoping that the answer that it spits out is something remotely close to what you were kind of thinking or hoping to get to, rather than challenging ourselves with questions that help us think through what are we really trying to achieve and what is going to help us move forward.
Yes.
So I think like that's a good segue into like more detail around like what you've built and what it does, just in like simple terms for our listeners.
Yeah. So what it does, instead of going into a reactive execute, ready, fire, aim, it kind of pauses you between the ready and the aim. And it says, it kind of peels back the layer of your thoughts in real time. It's really a thinking partner, a mirror that challenges and intervenes not at the place of decision, but at the place of input. So if we're looking at like a work stream, you really it's just like an input, what you receive, decision made, action, result. Performance really nails down the action result dynamic, but that relationship between input and decision is really where reality is defined, meaning is made, and that's where what's possible and the choices available are formed that really precede the decision that you make at the end of the day. And so what it does is it slows down and says, let's not just jump right into action. Let's
Mm-hmm.
reflect on the quality of input. Are the assumptions correct? Is the mindset, the framework you're bringing to it the right one? And then is the decision then that you're making based on reality, or is it based off of thoughting someone else's thinking from the past or your own past experience, but doesn't fit this time and this place and this set of circumstances? So it really intervenes not so much at the place of action or even decision first, but it says, let's look at the input first to make sure that the reality we're engaging, because it's changing so fast now. Let's make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the reality is real, that you're making your decisions off of first. Then we'll make sure the decisions are high quality decisions that actually create the result you're wanting.
And that is the key, the quality of the decision and thinking it through, not just taking, the quickest possible route to the end game. It's funny because with the World Economic Fair just been taking place. I remember a year ago when it happened, um, all the senior leaders I knew were like rushing back, like it's all about, automation, jobs are going, move quicker, fire everyone, let's do everything's AI. And I remember feeling like that's not my impression at all. And I think the longer we sit with this, the more that like ethical applications and human experience and valuable ideas, new ideas, not regurgitated ideas, are going to become more important. And that I was worried, and I know Mike, you and I had talked about this too, that we were going to end up with a whole generation of people in the workforce that had no critical thinking skills because every time a question crosses their desk that is a little tricky, instead of like thinking it through or having a conversation with a coworker or a peer, they're just putting it into an LLM, getting the answer and moving on because everything's speed, 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 speed. And then I've noticed as people have been coming back from Davos this time, it's it's like, well, it might have been a bit hasty last year, and maybe we need to rethink a few things. Implications are really important. And I'm like, okay, good. We've all calmed down a little bit, and we've all like had a little bit of reality juice over the past 12 months and realized that we can't just plug this in and switch our brains off. Like we have to still be able to bring something to the table. Um, so thinking about that, like what makes what you're building different to like traditional mentoring and coaching? Because I think we've well covered how it's different to traditional AI tools because it definitely encourages more thought going into the outcome that you're looking for. But what's the win here over traditional coaching and mentoring?
Well, I humbly would say probably it's not a win over. It's maybe a complement supplement, but at the basic score premise, it's a lot of coaching, mentoring is reserved for the elite few, like you said at
Yeah.
the beginning of this, the executives. So it's not really accessible, it's not really affordable, and it's
Mm,
not scalable to the middle managers and to the middle leadership. And the crux of most of our organizational issues come with that middle system blindness. Our middle leadership are the highest pressure, most demand. They're supposed to translate top-down OKRs and the bottom-up KPIs. Gallup says they're also the most actively disengaged because we don't help them develop that transition in leadership from action result thinking to input decision thinking.
yeah.
And they're just left kind of in the middle and treading water. And so we're seeing that in real time where they're just disengaged and falling away. What this does, this tool, is it takes that quality of coaching and mentoring and makes it affordable, makes it accessible to everyone in the moment with real work 24/7 and scalable throughout the organization at the price because it's really, in terms of pricing and all that, it's comparable to like a library of content, but it's a
Mm,
lot more alive and dynamic because it engages your work. But in terms of its approach, how it's different than coaching and mentoring, I did some executive coaching still with a couple of different institutions and ICF. Coaching really says, okay, you bring the input to us. We help
yeah.
improve the quality of your decision making. This tool and this approach, design thinking, says let's intervene first at the place of input to make sure that that's high quality, to make sure your decisions are sound. And mentoring is good, but you're also relying on someone else's pre-processed reality, predetermined outcomes, and says, here's what we, based on my experience, here's what you're having, here's what you're going through, here's what your choices available are, and so you're kind of using still someone else's roadmap to navigate your unique circumstance.
Mhm.
And it has a place, but it's limited. And what
Yeah.
this tool does, it helps you understand your own unique journey, your own place in your organization, your own role, and the reality and the unfolding, pressures around you in real time, and says what's a signal to move on and what's just noise.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think if you'll humor me a moment, Erin, I just want to just I know I talked to you at length about this like previously, but just to share like my experience like when I trialed it. Um it actually was really great because when Mike sent it to me, he had a couple of prompts to kind of get me in the flow of how it works because I'm sure I'm like most people on the planet and have been using an LLM for a couple of years now. And this is very different because as we've said a couple times, you normally put in question or request and your prompt will just push back like and either one or three options for here's the answer. And this is a very different style of interacting with the technology because it comes back at you with things to think about. So I really used it as kind of a thought partner when I was struggling to come to a conclusion, but I didn't necessarily just need a quick like okay, when I was thinking about like what to give an analogy for like an LLM, and I use ChatGPT. It's like, do you remember when you first got access through like Word to the thesaurus tool? And it's like, oh, this word doesn't sound like super impressive. I'm gonna go on the thesaurus and just see what else I can do. Like ChatGPT is great for that. Like just fancy this up, polish this up, give me a quick like make this look better or give me like some format it in this way, make it this size, that kind of thing. But if you need to have like more of an in-depth discussion, I actually find myself getting a bit frustrated with ChatGPT most of the time because it has its own assumptions and opinions that are not necessarily in line with my own. So I really found it refreshing to use your tool, where the not an answer was pushed back at me, but more like digging into the question behind it. And most specifically, I had a question around pricing on something. And rather than going through just like the usual research methods, I'm part of a few communities and this, that, and the other. I was like, I'm gonna kind of talk this through with my little new friend here. And it really got to the bottom of kind of where my reservations were around like some of the pricing components. And it became a little bit like a therapy session, honestly. It was so helpful in terms of like how we value the work that we do, rather than valuing it, just pound for pound like you would do a steak. It's like, what's the impact worth? Like, what impact are you bringing to the table? It really made me think about that. And that clarification was pretty inspiring. I remember, like, immediately I sent like the response to Erin so that we could both just be like, we should think about this a little differently. Um, and it was a nice like little lesson to learn, and I wouldn't have gotten that from like a traditional LLM because we wouldn't have got into that dialogue, because they would have been like they'd have scraped a bazillion websites and been like most people price point here, and then that would have been it. That would have just been the end of the conversation.
Outsource your authority and your thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
I love how you
I,
said it was almost like a therapeutic thing. 'Cause I mean, obviously, it's not therapy at all, but it
right.
feels it. But what it does function off of, like regeneration, is the idea that what's the potential inside the living person or plant, whatever, is enough. It's enough for
Yeah.
this time. It's enough for this set of circumstances. We just have to activate it because it's latent, and we need to develop it and express it. And so it feels natural. It feels like it's you versus
Mhm.
a high performer. And I was the ultimate high performer before I kind of had a crisis of thinking for myself and realizing, oh, it felt empty of like I was just, repeating someone else's thoughts and they didn't
Yeah.
really have an impact. And I was like, I was exceeding on things without value in some ways. And so being able to activate your own source for of authorship, of agency, of your quality of attention matters, your perception matters, the clarity, and you being placed there for a reason is brought to light through that tool. So I loved your experience with that because that's what we want, or what I want that experience to feel like for people. It's just uncovering what's already there because you're already enough for this moment.
Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful. And it fits so perfectly for the time that we're in. And, I think about Erin and I as, leaders in a small startup that don't necessarily have the time and bandwidth to like get on each other's calendar at the right moment, or there's nobody else around to call sometimes. Like if you're a fractional leader or an independent leader, like it's so beneficial to have something that's just a little bit more probing onto who you are to help you get to that conclusion. And, then, like, as we've said, in organizations where you don't have access to that level of development from a coach or a mentor, um, for me personally, having experienced, a wide range of executive coaching, mentorships, it was just perfect amount for what I needed at the time and just readily on hand. And that's, what people need, it will, for me, I mean, look at it right now. It's 7:30 at night for me, 8:30 at night for Erin. Like if I was, working on something in a time with other people, I wouldn't be bugging them at this time of night, just, but if I have something that I can just bounce an idea off, like it helps because work now we are trying to fit around our lives. And it's not like we're doing this recording at nighttime because we're like crazy obsessives. Like we do it because we're, fitting around schedules with kids.
Yeah.
Like you've got to maximize the time when your kids are home, and before they go to bed. Like you don't want to miss out on that time. And so then you come back to it a little bit later, and it's great to have something that you can kind of tap into there. So I guess like after all this discussion, if we just like zoom back out a little bit, Erin, you've been sat there quietly listening to me and Mike talk. Like, what's your take on how like the leadership landscape is changing at the moment, and why access to this like, good thinking, critical thinking matters now like more than ever?
I think a couple of things, and I'm thinking back to what it felt like to be sort of a middle level leader in on the inside of corporate America. I think that one, it's a lonely place a lot of times, particularly within HR functions, because you have to balance sort of access to leveraging your peers for idea generation and feedback with keeping a lot of the problems that are on your desk confidential.
Yeah.
And then as you look up, right, you're battling this sort of balance between, do I lean on my leader for help, or does that make me show up in a certain way? And having to think through the consequences, right, of leaning there.
Yeah.
So you've got this sort of balancing act on one hand, and then I think there's also this just demand for optimal productivity and to move incredibly fast. And
Yeah.
so there's this weight on your shoulders of I've got to make an intelligent, creative decision, and it's got to be made right now. And
Yeah.
and so I don't have time always to go and seek feedback from all the sources I'd like to. And so I think about a tool like this as really enabling and enabling sort of lost middle level leaders, senior leaders who don't have a lot of time and access at all times, right?
Yeah.
To think through with a strong thought partner.
Yeah.
And two, to maintain confidentiality and have sort of a trusted sounding board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So, Mike, what are you excited about next as you move forward with this exciting new tool?
Well, I am excited, oddly enough, for the other AI tools to launch and become more profitable. I know right now a lot of the Gen AI initiatives, think like they said, 95% aren't really functioning yet. But
Yeah.
soon we're going to see the future of work is going to be, this super agency relationship between people and AI. And again, if you look at kind of that work stream of input, decision, action, result, AI's place of thriving is going to be, for now, at least in that action result. And so that speed, that quick decision, all the stuff that the performance stuff is going to become more increasingly automated,
Yeah.
but it's still uniquely human that we bring to the work we do. And what's going to become our role in this relationship will be really honing in on the input and decisions. So we're not just making work slop or outputs, waste streams at a faster rate because it's automated, but
Yeah.
we're now responsible to say, okay, we are the people who actually make sure that the input is high quality and is reality. And looking at the meaning we're making from that, the assumptions we bring to it, and then making sure the decisions that we are leaning into and shaping and refining what AI does are the right decisions. So I think this is where work needed to be going, I think, for a while. I think AI is going to amplify that need, but it's
Mm.
also going to shift us away from being more than just units of production to people who actually are able to, perceive what's happening around them, make meaning from it, gather understanding and insight, and make the right decisions. And I think it's going to be leading to more fulfilling work, frankly. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited that this tool and this process is positioned to help people learn how to bring that quality of thinking about their level of thinking in real time to the work that they're doing.
Yeah, totally. Use the technology for good, people. Like, use it to give more time to your human beings that have got brilliant, creative, and wonderful capabilities to really enhance like your product, your organization, whatever it might be. And then, lean on this technology for the efficiencies in the areas that were time consuming historically, but didn't necessarily require, brain waves to move forward. I think about what my day looked like when I first stepped into the workplace. And I think about what it looks like now. The pace has changed incredibly. The tools that I have access to has changed incredibly. And the more time that I have to actually spend with people, getting creative and making the workplace better, which obviously, coming from HR, it's really important to me that, doing right by people and giving them the avenues that they need to be successful, is just so, so important to me. So I'm right there with you. I just, my wish is that for, you know, everybody to look through that same lens of being thoughtful how it's applied and where it's applied, and where we still make space for the brilliance that lies within the workforce in our humans. So, okay, I feel like that's a good place to wrap. Where can people learn more about you, Mike,
Yeah,
and what you're
they can go
building?
to RegenDesignLabs.com and they can learn all about the method, the tool, a little bit about me. Also, we have a LinkedIn page as well. You can check that out. But yeah, I'd love for them to, if they want to learn more, go there and just shoot me an email and we'll talk.
Awesome. Any more final thoughts, Mike, Erin?
I don't think so. It's been a great conversation. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you all. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, just like you said, like we're in a unique time finally, where we can maybe stop being so reactive in
Hmm.
our work mode, and we can be more purposeful and to steward technology in a way that we're not competing with another tool to be more reactive at a faster rate than they are, but to use it and steward it in a way where we are allowed to be more purposeful and intentional, and like you said, uniquely human. Like it's not doom and gloom. I think it's a gift that it carries responsibility, mind you, but it is a gift that we can now shift maybe from being reactive to being purposeful with a part of our lives that takes up 60% of our days, which is our career.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, your tool does such a wonderful job of facilitating that for people that need that or desire that muscle to be continuously like tapped into when it comes to critical thinking and leaning into our own ideas.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks for coming and having a chat with us, Mike. Hope you have a good
Thanks for
rest of your
having me.
evening.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate it. And Erin, nice to meet you finally.
On a
Yes. Well,
in podcast form. She is real. She is real.
No. An AI tool. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not an AI. All right, Tilly. No, I'm joking. All right, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.